Hey there YouTube, welcome to JT Picks, and today I will be picking my top 10 CHH albums of all time. Thanks to Emmanuel for this idea. I have a few disclaimers before I actually get into the ranking. Number one, this video has 10 albums, and out of those 10 albums, 9 albums are Reach Records projects. Now, please do not be upset and don't go in the comments and tell me there's more to CHH than Reach Records. I know I'm a CHH content creator. I know there's more than Reach Records. The reason that this list mainly is comprised of Reach Records albums is because Reach Records has always, I'm not saying they're the only ones who can, but for the most part, they have always put the sound and the artistic values of their album in a very high place. They put it along with spreading the gospel and, making a Christian album. Sometimes, and especially in the film community, you will have people who turn making their artistic statements into a pulpit and thus depriving it of any artistic value. Reach Records did the opposite. Instead of making their albums a sermon, they made them artistic statements, and thus that's why they're so good, and thus that's why you're going to see 9 out of the 10 Reach albums here, because they're just so good. Let me repeat this. I am not saying that other labels and other albums don't do this and other artists don't do this, because nowadays they're increasing, but for what I know and from what I've heard, most of the best top of the line has come from Reach, although we're starting to get masterpieces from different places, as you'll see from the one exception on this list. Number 2, we are not doing short projects, EPs, which I would have 2 EPs as number 1 and number 2 because they're the only real straight value 10 out of 10s I've given, which is Eremos and Christian Braiding's self-titled EP. Generally, for this ranking, I want albums that have at least 12 tracks. Finally, there is another exception to this list, which is that we're only allowing hip-hop albums, because if hip-hop albums weren't the only thing that was allowed, this would be on the list. This is technically a CHH album. It just barely has any actual hip-hop on it. It's more a dance album. Even on Apple Music, it has that as the genre. As far as the 14-track album goes, about 85% of it is dance music, and there's only like 1 or 2 hip-hop tracks here. So without further ado, let's just get into my top 10 CHH albums of all time. Starting us off with number 10, we have Lecrae's Anomaly. You'll notice this on pretty much all of the albums here. The track lists are stacked, and this is because they have to be in order to get this high score. But this album was one of 2 that up until 2023, Lecrae received a Grammy for, which was Gravity and Anomaly. And out of the 2, I think this one deserved it more. Gravity's good, but it has some misses on here. Anomaly, not so much. The only track that I really don't like is the title track, Anomaly, and that's because it feels more like an interlude more than anything, even though it's supposed to be a full-fledged track. But it's not the worst. Other than that, the rest of the track list is really good. I mean, my favorites from it are Wish and Runners, both really good songs. But I love the rest of the track list too. You got Say I Won't, Welcome to America, Fear, Dirty Water, which has really grown on me. I used to hate Dirty Water, now I love it. It's just a really good album. It's not the strongest narrative album. It tells, different spots of how Lecrae's thinking and processing things at a certain point, but it's not the strongest Lecrae can be narratively, and I think that's one of the things that really kills it. But other than that, it's a really good album. At number 9, we have Tripley's Rise. Tripley really hit it out of the park with this one. Guys, let me tell you, Tripley is respected because of this project, and you will see a lot of people refer to this as their favorite CHH album, and I can totally understand that. I mean, think about it. You have Rise as your kickstarting track, an underrated song that just from the second it starts with the voice modulated beat with the here we go, yeah. I mean, and then Natalie Lauren, I think that's Natalie Lauren, I could be wrong, it just sounds like her, singing the hook of that song, and then Trip Lee's rap, I mean, oh, so good. But like Anomaly, I think one thing that really gets this album, and one thing that you will see that gets me with a lot of these albums, is that I'm upset, and when I say a lot of these albums, I mean a lot of the albums on the back half of this list, is that it's not as narratively strong as I'd like it to be. And guys, I hold these albums to very high standards. When I say I want narrative tightness, I want like the tightest of the tightest. I want everything to be perfect and me to understand everything. And this at sometimes just feels like an album where he's just divulging different parts of himself. And yeah, it can be kind of a little bit basic when it comes to the narrative, but other than that, production, sound, lyricality, all of that is there. And with the highest point of the album being its production, it's so good that when I saw Manolo being performed live, that's what caused everybody to flip out. That was an amazing day of my life, just seeing that song being performed and hearing the actual here's a video. Even through my terrible iPod camera, which is what I had used to record that, you can hear the palpable excitement and freak out from absolutely everybody. There's not one person who wasn't freaking out. My dad, who was with me that day when they performed that, said he thought they were going to bring the building down on us because everybody was jumping so much. I think that a really underrated track on this album, first of all, there's lots of underrated tracks. Lights On, Rise, Beautiful Life 2, Insomniac. But the songs that really get a lot of attention are Manolo and Sweet Victory. I mean, fairly, because Sweet Victory is such a beautiful and gorgeous song. Manolo's obviously that incredible hype song. But the underrated track of the album is All My Love, which is really one of the best like lyrical tracks out there. It tells like such an amazing story and is really a good song. Now, as for what I don't like of the album, and when I say I don't like it, I don't mean that it's bad. I just mean that I personally don't love it as much as others do, which is Lazarus. On my Apple Music account, I have local filed the Gavi remix of Lazarus because that is an infinitely better version of the song. It just captures the vibe and the energy of the song so much better than the actual one does. So much so that when I heard the original Lazarus, I was like, did somebody mess with it? It just feels so like dull. There's no energy in the song. That's because Gavi's remix of it is just better in every way. Number 8, Restoration. Here's the thing. Personally, I don't think this album would be here if it was just the bass. All the tracks, except for the Deep End remix, which is the worst song on the deluxe edition, are 10s. As the bass album, though, I think this tells a really good story. I think it tells a story that's somewhat stronger than Anomaly's, very simply because the album title tells you. It's restoration. It's the restoration of Lecrae, and I think he tells that not only through the lyrics, but even like through the music videos. You can't say that about Anomaly's music videos. What story's being told there? But you watch the music videos, especially like Wheels Up, for instance, which I was watching earlier today, and I was like, dang, Lecrae is hella consistent. I've been listening to his podcasts. hearing his story about, you know, his brush with fame and how it's been leaving him mentally unwell because of all the attention and negativity that comes with that. It's just so crazy how he's been telling us the same exact story for more than 4 years now. And it's like some people haven't even listened to him. It's crazy. But this is a really good album. It also has one of Lecrae's best songs on it, which is Zombie. Fun fact, I made this comment on the YouTube video for the Zombie lyric video when it first came out, but it's still true. When the song first came out, I actually freaked out. Like, if I had recorded a reaction to Zombie, you guys would have loved it, because I was running around my house actually jumping up and down, screaming about how good this song was. I mean, that's a perfect Lecrae song right there. It's got the melodies. Oh, I put up a poll asking what type of hip hop y'all like, and y'all said lyrical. Nah, I'm a melodic guy. Somebody wrote, so you like Holve? Yeah, Holve is melody, but I mean, like, when Lecrae gets those melodies. At number 7, we have Mr. Keith. This is the one non-reach record album you will find here, and that is because it is deserving. This was my favorite album of 2023. John Keith did too much of a good job. Too much. I don't know if there's much to say for it that I didn't say in the review video, so just go check that out. But I love this album with a lot of me. I listen to it still. It's still in my rotation, especially songs like James Dean, Die, Press. I'm just gonna end up rehearsing the whole track list at this point. It's a really good album. Listen to it if you haven't. At number 6, Today We Rebel. Oh my goodness. I was mad at myself when scoring this album, because I kept going, man, the score should be higher. The score should be higher. The score should be higher. I love this album so much. But at the end, I also understand why it's not a perfect 10. You have I'm Not the One and New Portrait, which, while not bad songs by any means, are not KB's best songs. On the flip side, though, you have some of KB's actual best songs on this record. You have Art of Drifting and Art of Hope, which are two of, I will fight and argue this until the day I die, the greatest CHH songs ever to be written and penned and put before us. They tell such a good story. Not Today, Satan, Monster, and then my favorite Lecrae feature and extremely underrated KB song, Get Through. Oh, that's such a good one. I mean, you have the Bill O'Reilly line, and just like, it's such a good album. It was part of KB's very well-known Day series. I'm just gonna call it the Day series because there was Tomorrow We Live and Today We Rebel. Then you have with the secret features for King and Country on Bring You War, and yeah, it's just a really good album. Now we in the top 5, boys. We ain't playing around now. We weren't playing around before, but we definitely ain't playing around now. These are like GOAT level. Number 5, Andy Mineo, Uncomfortable. The intro track to this is worthy of a 10. This album gets a 9.5. The only reason this album doesn't reach a 10 is because of David's Roof and Ghost. Other than that, like, this is a really good project. It has me in love with songs that I never thought I'd be in love with, like Strange Motions. That's technically a song I should hate. That feels like an incomplete song, but for some reason I love it. It feels... excuse me, I gotta go listen to it. This album is really great. I remember I put somebody onto this and they were like, wow, that's a really good album. For those wondering, because they're gonna see a discretion, something that doesn't make sense, and it's actually what I was telling you before the video. Mood. When I did my Andy Mineo album ranking video, I did that one objectively, but I also did it based on mood. There's another Andy Mineo album coming, and that one was second in the other video. You should know what it is by now if you've seen my other stuff. So yeah, that's what I was saying about the mood. My mood was different that video. This is a good album, but there's one that's better in my opinion, objectively. Number 4, Andy Mineo's Neverland 2. If you know me, you know I love this album. It's got Been About It on it. It's got Coming in Hot on it. It's got one of the best outros. Not Coming in Hot, the actual, remember, Coming in Hot is the end credits. I don't count that as the end. The end of this album is Cross My Heart, and that is one of Andy Mineo's best songs. You're not telling me otherwise. I get goosebumps every time I hear it. It's so glorious. This is a really good album. It tells this story that isn't exactly defined. You know how in those other albums I said there's a story, but the narrative is a bit weak? The narrative is not weak here. It's just that the narrative takes some time to find. But it tells this story, which Andy Mineo's merch and all of this stuff that was surrounding this album tells you about your inner child. Period. And it tells this beautiful, gorgeous story about Andy Mineo reconnecting with his inner child. And at the end, he finds him. And I tell you, when I hear this soundbite from the album, goosebumps are on my skin every single time. That is an album that belongs in the top 5. Now, I'm going to be honest, this album and the next album, when I originally put together this list, they weren't on the list because I had forgotten about them. And I didn't forget about them for the reasons you might think, because I didn't like them or anything, but it's because I don't want to say I've tried to distance myself from these albums, which I haven't. I think it's just an automatic response with everything that happened. Once I remembered these albums, I went, oh, I gotta redo this list. And so I scored these albums and the scores came out really high. Number 3, Panorama by Gavi. Lots of people say this is Gavi's best album. I don't exactly disagree, but I don't exactly agree either. I have a soft spot in my heart for We Belong, but I can't deny that this album is a good one. I mean, just looking at this track list, it really is stacked. Panorama, the ultimate hype song. Slingshot, what a perfect song to follow Panorama. You're up there and Slingshot keeps you up there, and then Nauseous still keeps you up there, and then Guys Night Out is the perfect vibe song. 10, 10, 10, 10. Salute is really, if Salute wasn't here, I'm sure this would be a 10 out of 10 album. Salute, I didn't like that at all. Fight For Me, great radio song. Dulce, Baker Act, deep lyrics, love it. Moments of Fear is an interlude. What are you gonna do? I don't like interludes, but it also connects past Gavi projects because it has the acoustic or piano instrumental of Moments by Gavi on it. And so I guess it's not the worst interlude. It's a little bit long, but hey, what can you do? And then it has With You, a perfect emotional song. No Gas, which is another, great one. Could be better. Green Card, awesome. Fashion Joe, so hard. Imperium, awesome. Traptada, which is a great one. Don't Leave, awesome song. And then Get 'Em, the perfect hype song outro. Now we're talking about number 2. This one's going to be a bit controversial because everybody thinks Panorama, I'm pointing to the CD, is Gavi's best album. I'm going to have to beg to differ and say Heathen is Gavi's best album according to the numbers. I scored these two right next to each other, so I have no reason to put one over the other. The score just came out and this one was higher. This one beats Panorama by 0.4. Panorama has a 9.73. Heathen has a 9.77. Yes, that means this is rounded to a 10 out of 10. Gavi was on a generational run for some, We Belong, Panorama, and Heathen. Seriously, that's a generational run if you ask me. The man dropped 3 9.5, 9.5, and 10 albums. Anybody wants that. Everybody wants that. There's not one person who doesn't want a nearly perfect trilogy like Gavi has. And let me tell you, Heathen deserves it. Just like Panorama, it follows a very specific structure, with the first track being an awesome intro, hyping you up. But it hypes you up in a different way, whereas Panorama wanted to hype you up. Difficult more just like got you ready for the album and the album's themes. If you know me like I know me, you would hate me and disown me. And you know, like now, you know, hindsight 2020, you know exactly what he meant by that. Jit was a song that kept the hype alive. Like once you got through difficult and you were like ready for the album, Jit took advantage of that, you know, like prepping you, and it was like, yeah, get hype, this is the album, you're in it now, and you were there. And then Skull really capitalized on that too. Climate Change was a single that was great. Now, this is me being really tough with my critiques. Climate Change is an amazing, great song, but compared to other songs on the track list, Climate Change is not the best. Not Too Far, awesome song. Sin, perfect song. Girl is amazing. So Alive, All of Me. Now, I do want to say this. Who You Gon' Be with Trip Lee and Israel Houston. I used to hate that song. When I first heard it in my reaction, I actually said it wasn't a great Gavi song. It wasn't even a good Gavi song. Somebody in the comments was like, dude, that's an L take. And I was like, to each his own. Now, I still don't think the song is perfect, but I actually do think it's really good. It's great. It's amazing. It gets a 9.5 out of 10. The song alone. Vanity is another low point of the project, but we're fine because from there on out we get all amazing songs, resulting in a 10 out of 10 for this little album. It's so good. Okay, now I'm going to go into the wonderful honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1, Church Clothes 3. Christopher by Holvey. Originally, I didn't have the other 2 Gavi albums on this list, and so I was like, this is going to be the other, you know, album that's in outreach, but it was eventually moved to the honorable mentions, and that's Cannon's Home, the final honorable mention. KB's Tomorrow We Live. Ladies and gentlemen, this leaves me to give you all the best CHH album ever. The album that Lecrae doesn't like, which is sad to me, because it's such a good project. And yes, I know it's because he faced dark times in his life during the making of this, and I get that. I understand that, and I actually respect it. But it's still the best one he's made. Best production, it's just so enjoyable. It's not narratively tight, as some would want it to be, but it really takes the best of both worlds in storytelling in certain tracks, such as Facts, Always Do, Cry For You, Wish You the Best. I mean, I can keep going. I love every song on this album. But it also balances that enjoyability, the replayability, just the perfect effervescent production on this album. It makes you float because it's got something for everybody. I have the album there. I have the album here. It's all things work together. It has Lecrae's best song on it. Not one of the best song, which is Facts. It has a perfect outro in Worth It, an amazing storytelling track in Cry For You, one of Lecrae's best features, and another one of Lecrae's best songs in Blessings, perfect anthemic features in Tori Kelly with I'll Find You. Aha Gazelle, like Lecrae, was on a generational run in 2017. In fact, Reach Records was on a generational run in 2017. They released this, We Belong, Today We Rebel, and Magic and Bird in 2017. That is impressive. That's 5 really good albums in 1 year. Dang, we were eating then. When the worst you can get from a project is Can't Stop Me Now, parentheses Destination, I have a pretty good project. Can't Stop Me Now, Destination is like one of those songs that, depending on my mood, I'll love it or hate it, but objectively, it's a good song. It's another one of those storytelling tracks. It has great production. This album is perfect in every ways. I used to hate Come and Get Me. I love it now. Metro Boomin on the production for Hammer Time. Lecrae, get Metro Boomin on another track. Please, look, I know you don't love this album, so why don't you get another album and have Ty Dolla $ign on it? Or, I don't know, maybe J. Cole. Just saying. And another Metro Boomin production credit, so that I don't have to look to this album anymore for the Metro Boomin production credit and the Ty Dolla $ign feature. Crazy, you know, that's a crazy idea, but maybe do it. That still won't stop me from loving this album, though. You got 828 with the most underrated Lecrae song. I play this song every Sunday, seriously. Perfect hook, perfect verses. Lucked Up. The only songs I won't die for are Broke and Can't Stop Me Now. That's because Broke can be sometimes a little bit too hypey for me, even though I love the hype. And Can't Stop Me Now can sometimes just be too slow for me. I don't even know how to describe it. It's still a very good song. So yeah, perfect album. Please tell me what you think of the list. You probably hated it. You probably think it needs more variety. You probably are like, hey, what about this album? What about this album? What about this album? Say those things down in the comments. I will respond. I'll tell you what I think. You might not agree, but that's okay. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and ask for different videos. Suggest them to me. I will listen. And remember, there's only two things I know. I know that Jesus Christ is King, and that JT knows best. See you guys next time.